And welcome back to Hannity's America. Now, September 11th was one of the worst days in American history, but it was nothing compared to what could happen if terrorists were able to launch a nuclear attack right here on U.S. soil. Now, a frightening new report examines just how vulnerable we are. Let's take a look. The threat of a nuclear attack here in the United States may no longer be just a plot for Hollywood scripts. With major terror attacks taking place around the world, it makes people worry. Could another 9/11 be right around the corner? According to a report released by the Commission on the Prevention of a WMD Proliferation and Terrorism, another terror attack could be imminent.
It is more likely than not that a weapon of mass destruction will be used someplace in the world prior to the end of the year 2013.
Now, this warning comes from the bipartisan commission led by former Senators Bob Graham of Florida and Jim Talon of Missouri.
So we know they want to do it. The intelligence community believes, I think very plausibly, it's very difficult to deter them if they get the capability.
In a briefing last week with Vice President-elect Joe Biden, the report suggests that the Obama administration needs to bolster efforts to prevent and prepare for a nuclear or biological terror attack. Since 9/11, has the United States taken the necessary steps to prevent another attack?
No, we're not doing all we can or should. And we're not doing all we can to prevent the world's most lethal weapons from winding up in the hands of a terrorist.
With the new administration about to take over, the threat of another attack on U.S. soil sounds all too familiar.
Please, easy.
The administrations of Presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush,
Improve security,
and Prime Minister Gordon Brown were all tested by terrorist attacks within months of taking office. While campaigning, Joe Biden said that if elected, Barack Obama could face a similar situation.
Mark my words, it will not be 6 months before the world tests Barack Obama like they did John Kennedy. Watch, we're going to have an international crisis, a generated crisis, to test the mettle of this guy.
According to the report, there are specific threats that the United States must be on the lookout for.
We look mostly at nuclear and bio because those are the two with the greatest destructive potential, and of the two, bio is the greater risk. They could do either, but bio is easier. Really, if they recruit a couple of the right bioscientists to their cause and they build a lab, a relatively simple lab, they can get a bioweapon.
Mike Osterholm is the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research, and he too agrees with the findings in the report.
Every day we are at a risk of a bioterror attack, and there will likely be more. We just don't know when they'll occur and who will do them or where they'll come from. If it comes through the food supply, it's going to come in one way. It could be both biologic agents or chemicals. If it comes through the air, again, it could be as localized as what we saw in the Tokyo subway.
March 1995, a terrorist group releases sarin gas into the Tokyo subway system. A dozen people are killed, 50 more severely injured, thousands more suffer temporary vision problems.
Using a biological weapon, for instance, in the subway system of New York is a real problem for us. The subway operates kind of like a syringe. Once the weapon is aerosolized or put into the air, the fast-moving air in the subway system would project it along the subway system for long distances.
The most common biological weapon, or the one talked about the most, is anthrax, and that, of course, has been used in the past on a small scale.
September 2001. Letters containing anthrax spores are mailed to several media outlets and 2 Democratic U.S. senators. The anthrax exposure kills 5 and infects 17 others. While the threat of bioterror is real, less likely but much more catastrophic events are also possible.
If our enemies get their hands on a nuclear weapon, that is going to be the nightmare. New York and Washington are the primary targets, at least of the Islamic extremists, the ones most likely to use a nuclear weapon against the United States in the near term. A 10-kiloton nuclear weapon near the White House will produce many tens of thousands of deaths as well as many tens of thousands more casualties. Interestingly enough, due to the prevailing wind patterns at that time of the year, or any time of the year, generally going east, a nuclear weapon, particularly a 10-kiloton weapon, detonated at the White House would also kill just about everyone at the Capitol.
And it's not just rogue terror groups that must be monitored, but also their state sponsors and areas where terror thrives.
A nation state that might actually use a nuclear weapon, I think you have to, intentionally use it. You look at probably Iran and North Korea, because the North Korean regime is, well, frankly, kind of crazy and unstable. Iran has talked about using a nuclear weapon in the context of their conflict with Israel.
The commission is urging that the next administration and Congress pay particular attention to Pakistan, saying, quote, "It is the geographic crossroads for terrorism and weapons of mass destruction." The horrific events in Mumbai last month served as a wake-up call for many about Pakistan's dangers.
The greater danger right now we've isolated is in Pakistan, not because the Pakistani government is going to use its nuclear weapons, but because it's not stable. It's an epicenter for terrorism.
So in the complex world that we live in today, can the United States ever be totally safe from the threat of global terror?
There's such a higher level of activity on behalf of America's defenses than there was before 9/11. We're in the game now and have been since 9/11, and certain things we're doing much better. If there's a comforting aspect to our report, it's the increased capabilities of our intelligence community.
It could happen tonight, it could happen 10 years from now, and another biological attack may never happen. But I think the bets are another one will happen. I just don't know when that time is.
If you can find out who the bad guys are, where they are, and what they're doing, you can defeat them even if they acquire certain capabilities.